An Oregon student, Addison Barnes, is suing his high school after getting suspended for wearing a T-shirt which says simply, "Border Wall Construction Company." And then it quotes President Trump saying, "The wall just got 10 feet taller." He argues the school is showing a double standard. After all, it allowed a teacher to display a poster which read, "Sanctuary City, welcome home." In his lawsuit, Barnes argues the school is suppressing his speech simply because others were uncomfortable with the ideas and message of his shirt. Tonight's Legal Eagles criminal defense attorney David Bruno and Washington Times legal affairs correspondent Alex Swoyer. Good evening to both of you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ed.
Okay, Alex, I want to start with you. What say you, counselor?
Well, I think he has a very good point in terms of the viewpoint discrimination. It shows that the school was supporting one type of speech and not the other, supporting sanctuary cities versus not supporting building a border wall. And, you know, the interesting part is that he was attending a class that was on politics and the topic of the day was immigration. So I think the class really missed an opportunity to have an open debate.
David, it sounds pretty persuasive to me.
Well, one thing I'll concede, he has a First Amendment right, but it's not absolute. And basically every school throughout the country has a clothing policy, and there's Supreme Court precedent on that. This is Tinker versus Des Moines. And in that case, it was 50 years ago. It was when people were wearing black bands against the Vietnam War. And what happened was they said that if the teachers and the administration could reasonably anticipate a substantial disturbance, then they can, in fact, enforce this policy.
So it really
it's a factual analysis.
Is there really going to be a disruption because somebody says, "I like Donald Trump"? I mean, I get that feelings are raw on politics right now, but you know, black armbands is one thing. It seems like a Trump T-shirt shouldn't be that big of a deal.
I think
certainly.
I was going to say the only disturbance really was that he was physically removed from the school with the security officer had to pull him out of class when he decided to uncover the T-shirt. And you know, being offended doesn't necessarily equate to a disruption. You know, I think it would be different. We have Supreme Court precedent that says, you know, a principal can censor what's in the school newspaper because that looks like school speech. And in this was his T-shirt. It was his views, not the school.
David, I didn't mean to cut you off. Let's hear from the student, then I'll let you jump in. Let's hear the student.
You got it.
If somebody else disagrees with me politically, I mean, I think they should be able to express their viewpoints just as I should be able to express my viewpoints in school. Okay,
so react to him, but then also finish your point about the court.
Yeah, sure. He does have a good argument here. I think that he will come out victorious, but there are arguments to be made. It's a very fact-specific analysis. Here, he was going into an immigration class where it was going to be debated. He knew that it was going to be an issue. The school's predominantly made up of Spanish students. Okay, so he knew what he was getting into. And by the way, the disturbance doesn't have to actually occur. The administration can anticipate the disturbance. So in that very fact-specific analysis, that school believed that a disturbance could have occurred, and that's why they acted.
And to David's point, we have the Supreme Court decision. I want to just quickly read from the key part of that, if we could put that up on the screen, which basically walks us through what the court actually said, which is that student expression may not be suppressed unless school officials reasonably conclude that the expression will materially and substantially disrupt the work and discipline of the school. So what do you say to that, Alex?
I think in this case, you know, there's a good argument to be made that maybe he was trying to instigate some sort of argument over immigration since he knew that was going to be debated in class. But at the same time, we have to decide, are we going to silence speech and not have open dialogue, or are we going to challenge one another and challenge ideas? And if we're not going to do that in school, where else are we going to do it?
David, your final point?
Final point is when lawyers bring cases, they do so for judgments and monetary awards, okay? He hasn't had any damage here. These are nominal fees. And in the end, this is about policy. And it may go up to the Supreme Court, right? That decision was 50 years ago. The court has changed, and things can change at that court. We all know that.
Alex, your final summation?
I think it's interesting. We also have the Supreme Court term winding down at the end of next month, and there is a case about whether or not people can wear political apparel to the polls. Most polling places and states have different laws banning certain speech, including, like a shirt supporting a certain candidate. So it'll be interesting to see how the justices come down on that, which could suggest what they would do when it comes to speech on T-shirts in schools.
Alex, David, you both made very strong points. We're going to let our audience be the jury. You can tweet us at Fox News at Night to find out who won. In the meantime, have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
You too as well.
All right, thanks for coming in.